I moved to the United States in 1992 in Fresno, California. I was still a kid at the time. During the year that I came, there were a lot of Hmong gangs around. A couple of gangbangers were at the park smoking and drinking with their music playing loud from their cars. They were all around the ages of 16 to 20, except one kid who was around 10 or 12 years old at the time. At this park, there was a cemetery next to it. The woods blocked the view of the cemetery from the parking lot where the gangbangers were hanging out. The head of the car was parked facing the woods where the cemetery was located. The exit was on the left side at the back. Some guys were sitting on the hood of the cars and the back trunk, while others stood. Everyone was having fun joking around until one of the guys pointed into the woods and asked if they can see what he was seeing. It looked like someone was wearing Hmong clothes walking towards them. They all looked and turned into the woods. It came closer and closer to where they were at, and some of them at this point realized that it was wearing the traditional Hmong clothes for the dead. The ones that knew started running without saying anything. Like a chain effect, all the other guys followed. Since the youngest of them was small at the time, everyone was pushing their way through, and they knocked him down on the ground and ran out of the park. The little kid got up as fast as he could and was about to sprint his way out. Out of nowhere, someone grabbed his shirt and pulled him back flat on the ground. With fear, he turned around to see who pulled him. It was the old dead woman in Hmong clothes. The little boy froze in fear, and the woman said to him, "Why are you here? Go home and do not hang out with these people again. Be good to your parents and become a good person, or else I'll come back and take you with me." The boy then ran out of fear out of the park and became a good person. He even became a doctor. Never hung out with the gang ever again. When I was younger, I used to experience a lot of paranormal activity, but I think the one that I'm about to tell you really takes the cake. It happened 2 weeks after moving into my new house in Fresno. My mom is a registered nurse who worked night shifts, leaving my 3 sisters and I alone during the nights. We were always scared during the nights, so they'd all come to sleep in my room with me. We'd lock the doors and just slept throughout the night. One night, as we were sleeping, I suddenly heard a door slam shut from the other room. I was so scared at this point, but being the eldest there, I pretended that it was just the wind so that no one would freak out. An hour later, as everyone fell asleep, I swear on my life that what I saw was so horrific. It scares me to think about it even till this day. The door to my bedroom is a glass door. I heard a noise from outside my room, almost as if bones were cracking. As I peeked from under my blanket, I saw what looked like a naked girl crawling backwards. She was on all fours, but her stomach was faced towards the ceiling and back faced down. She moved with such fast motions, but she suddenly just froze at my door. I was so scared, I froze there, not knowing if she was going to come at the door or if she was going to leave. Scared, frozen, and crying, I had no idea what to do. I closed my eyes, praying to God to help us and to keep my siblings safe. All of a sudden, that thing was gone. I felt a sense of relief, but I was still scared to death. That's when I looked up to the ceiling. Since it was nighttime, I couldn't really tell what it was, but as my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw what looked to be the shape of a young boy with horns. During this time, I was still pretty confused, but every time I moved, the shadow moved as well. Eventually, I got the courage to turn on the lights, and when I did, it was gone. I went to wake up my siblings so that I could have the comfort of someone being awake with me. I never told them about what happened because I didn't want them to freak out. After this, it never really happened again. I'm not too sure if it was a dream or not, but to my knowledge, I believe that it happened when I was awake. This incident took place at a farm in Fresno, California, out here by Sanger. My dad works on this Hmong family's land because he tends to their crops. And these quote-unquote crops, well, you could use them for medicinal purposes or recreational, depending on what kind of person you are. Anyways, my dad needed me to go help him on this night watch this one night because Cambodians tried to rob us. Earlier that day in the afternoon was when I arrived and I was sitting around. I saw this cute girl. She gave me a quick glance and I smiled, and then I went on to feed their farm animals. I never saw her again after that day. Night came by and it was just my dad and I guarding the corners. He had one corner and I had the other of our area. My dad was nice enough to let me be in the car while I was guarding. He was just sitting on a chair by his corner. I tried to stay up as long as I could, but I dozed off at around 1 a.m. This was when things started to get creepy. As I dozed off, in the dream, I woke up in the car where I dozed off and looked around. I didn't think much until I saw a girl in the distance in front of my car. She started walking towards me. It was pitch black, but I could see the outline of her shape. As she got closer, it started to look like she was the cute girl I saw earlier in that day, but it was so dark that I couldn't be sure. This is when I turned on my headlights and, oh my Jesus Lord Christ, have mercy, it was her, but she was in Hmong clothes with a strange, weird, distorted face. Her face was like it wanted to murder me or do something. I tried to play it cool and act like I wasn't scared. I tried to ask her what she wanted and why she was out so late at night. She didn't say anything, and instead ran towards me, jumped on the car and tried to get in. I panicked and yelled at her to get away. She gave one last big blow to the window and grabbed onto me, and that was when I woke up. As I woke up, I was sweating profusely and looked around. Just like the dream, it was all pitch black. I called my dad right away and he picked up. I told him everything and he said that he'll come to get me right away. It felt like years when he was running to me from his corner. It's about 100 yards on the other side of the field. When he came, he just stayed with me for the night and I could sleep. The next day, my dad and I went to ask the owner and told him about the incident. The owner then said that the girl that I saw was his dead daughter that died a year ago. The corner that I had to guard was next to the place of her incident when she passed away. My dad was pissed because the owner never mentioned anything about it. We then went to a shaman and he told me that I am forbidden to go back onto that farm. This was because the spirit of the girl was lonely. She was around my age and tried to take me back with her. But because I had a snake bracelet on my wrist, she couldn't literally take me away. The shaman then tied me a red and black string on my neck to protect me from the spirits. Interested in sharing your stories? Submit them to HmongChronicles@gmail.com or in the description below. Here is the next story. Thank you. A couple of years ago, my friends and I rented a hotel in Fresno for the 2012 New Year's. We called around, but most of the close hotels at the fairgrounds were all booked. We ended up renting a room at a cheap place by 99 in Ashland. It was an okay place. There were 2 queen beds, a bathroom, a small fridge, and a microwave. We rented the place for 3 nights. The first night was perfect. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. We slept and got up at around 6 a.m. to get ready for the New Year's at the fairgrounds. We drove down 99 to the 180, then down Cedar to the fairgrounds. We met with a lot of friends and found out what party everyone was attending. We met some pretty down girls. They wanted to come kick it at our hotel room. On our way back, my buddy and I were stoked out having these girls over for the night. We went to get some alcohol and some stuff in case we get lucky. The girls had told us that they'll meet us at the hotel, so we waited. It was almost 10 p.m. and no girls. Damn, you guys are really thirsty. I tried calling them, but none of them picked up. I was pissed because we got stood up. I started calling our friends that we met earlier, and they were all at a sold-out nightclub. I then called my cousin in Fresno to see what they were doing tonight. He said that they were going to go kick it at Sky Harbor with some girls. I asked if we could tag along, and he said that it'll be okay. We got ready and started to go over to my cousin's place. Just as soon as we got out of the motel, those girls pulled into the motel parking lot. We stopped and invited the girls into our room. They apologized for not coming sooner because they had another family event that they had to attend. I called my cousin back and said that we had other plans, so we won't be joining them at Sky Harbor. As we started drinking with the girls, they got very frisky. I'm like, cool, but it got scary when one of the girls started speaking a weird language. I was surprised. I thought that maybe she spoke Greek or Latin, but I saw her crawling on all fours, then jumped onto my bed, and it looked like she was having a seizure. Oh, maybe she's a crack addict or something. At this point, I was hoping that she doesn't die. I was panicking a lot. One of the girls said that she worked at the hospital and said that when people have seizures, just to keep them safe from hitting things and keep their mouth open so that they can breathe. The seizure only lasted 10 seconds, but it seemed like forever. After her seizure, she was more responsive, so the other girls decided to take her home. Our night got screwed up. The girls left and we were stuck in the motel with a bunch of beers. It was only midnight, but since we've been drinking, we decided not to go out. Instead, we went to bed. This was when I found out that the girl puked on my bed. It stunk, so I peeled off the top blanket and tossed it into the corner by the door. I went out to the car and grabbed my sleeping bag. As soon as I got into my sleeping bag, I knocked out. My buddy, on the other hand, had quite the rough night. He said he kept hearing a voice calling his name. He also said that he felt like someone was sleeping next to him. Well, I mean, isn't that what he wanted? At first, he thought it was me, oh dang, but when he turned around to look, I was sleeping on my bed in my sleeping bag. When he went to use the restroom, the toilet flushed by itself before he even walked into the restroom. Around 6 a.m., I woke up from my sleep, and my buddy was sitting up curled with his knees and blanket to his chest. I asked him what was up. He was pale and quiet, not talking. He pointed at the blanket I threw at the corner. I went to the corner and lifted the blanket, only to find the girl that had the seizure from yesterday. It scared the living life out of me. I asked her how she got here, and she said she never left. That's not possible because I carried her into the car. I asked her where they went before coming to our motel room last night. She told me that they were at a family member who was possessed by a demon. I asked her if the shaman was able to ward off that demon, and she said no. My friend was still sitting on the bed, scared. I got my clothes and towel, took a shower, and dressed up. When I came out of the room, my buddy was still sitting on the bed, but the girl was gone. I asked him where she went, but my friend was mute. It was already 7:30 a.m. and my buddy would not get ready, so I told him if he doesn't want to go, he can stay at the motel. He looked at me, then got dressed quickly and walked straight to the car without saying a single word. I kept asking him what was wrong, but he did not answer. The whole day he was mute, not even saying a single word to me or anyone. I met those same girls, so I asked if their friend was alright. They said that she was fine but was admitted to the FRESNO community for seizures. I asked if she was home yet, but they said that she was still in a coma. I was confused. Who was I talking to at the motel this morning then? That got me really scared. Finally, around 7 p.m., my buddy spoke to me. I asked him why he was mute all day. He said that he was trying to talk all day, but every time he tries to, nothing would come out. I asked him what he saw in that room. He said he saw and felt and heard the girl from last night sleeping with him. She told him that she wanted to marry him. I told him we both needed to go home and have his dad call a shaman for him. We checked out the motel early and went home. He told his dad what happened. The shaman came in Oneng for him to see what was wrong. That was when he said that a demon hitched a ride onto the girl and came into our room. Because my buddy liked that girl, the demon took it as an invitation. I don't know why I was able to see the girl's spirit and talk to her, but I'm glad that I did because after the New Year's, I heard she passed away. I don't think I was affected because I was naive and didn't think much of it back then. But now I'm very scared just remembering that event. I've received several stories regarding some rather interesting things happening at Lost Lake. The Fresno County Recreation Area, located on Freant Road just north of Fresno on the way to Millerton Lake, has been the site of some rather odd sightings recently. One witness and their sister-in-law were fishing late one evening, alone at one of the day beach areas. The witness reported that as they were shining their flashlight on an island across the water, they saw a dark figure moving in the brush. At first, they figured it was just a coyote or something, but then realized it was too big to be an animal. As they were about to turn off their flashlight, the light hit the figure. It appeared to be a young Asian boy, perhaps 4 feet tall, pale, and only wearing swim trunks. Right as the flashlight was turned off, the person heard a large splash like something heavy was thrown into the water. The witness claimed it couldn't have been a fish, as whatever it made was a loud splash. They then turned the flashlight back on and searched the area for the little boy, but found nothing. Spooked by this incident, both parties left in a hurry and never went back. The second incident comes from the same 2 people I mentioned before, but this time at a different location in the park. Once again, they were fishing late one night, this time off of the broken bridge. Both of them were talking as their poles were in the water, and when they looked down towards the water, noticed a large figure in the water swimming to shore. When it reached land, it beached itself and stayed motionless for several minutes. What happened next terrified the 2 witnesses. Whatever it was, then stood up on 2 legs and began to walk around as if it was searching for something. They estimated that it was about 5 feet tall, but couldn't really make out any features as it was so dark. The creature then crouched on all 4s, laid on its belly, and then slithered back into the water and disappeared. Both witnesses were terrified and, needless to say, got the heck out of there. So here we have 2 separate types of incidents at the same general location and by the same witnesses. 2 possibilities here. One is that whoever told the story is fabricating it, but given the ghost sighting and the stories I've heard about Lost Lake, I'm not too sure. There's been stories of people taking their life at Lost Lake. Could it be the ghost of a boy that perhaps ended his own life? But what about the strange creature that they saw near the broken bridge? Rumors of a vortex of sorts and the land used to be a Indian burial ground have been told for many years, but they don't really explain this creature. Granted, it was dark that night and maybe they mistook some mundane animal for the thing that they saw. But what creatures swims onto land, walks around on 2 feet, only then to lower itself back on all 4s before sliding back into the water and disappearing? Plus the fact that whatever they saw was about 5 feet tall when it stood up. I think that Lost Lake needs to be added to the list of places that need to be investigated. What do you think is the cause of these strange occurrences? Many people who have been to this place talk of strange things that have happened. This is just not limited to Hmong people, but other ethnicities and groups as well. Hopefully, one day, we can figure out what's been going on.